In a season where a big man in a red suit comes down your chimney while you sleep, it just wouldn't feel right to not cover a home invasion film this time of year. 2016's Better Watch Out is directed by Chris Peckover. It is written by Peckover as well, alongside Zach Kahn. The story follows Ashley, who is babysitting Luke, one more time before she leaves town. What starts off as a simple evening, plus a little teenage infatuation, rapidly turns into an alarming fight for their lives. This film has some morbid and dark sequences, but still manages to maintain the line between horror and comedy. But in an industry oversaturated with the general plotline, does Better Watch Out set itself apart from many others, or does it recycle the same eye-rolling tropes? Ashley is played by Olivia DeJonge, and she is again babysitting Luke, who is played by Levi Miller. There are some interesting appearances from a couple actors as well. Patrick Warburton plays Luke's father, Robert, and Virginia Madsen plays his mother, Deandra. Even Dacre Montgomery has an appearance if you are a Stranger Things fan. Simply, this film has some pretty disturbing moments, but it is still pretty funny in places as well. Some clever dialogue and situational humor makes this a fun and exciting experience. At just under an hour and a half, it flows beautifully without lingering on any minuscule detail for too long. The performances, especially from these young actors, are outstanding, I thought. Some awkward moments, but they're teenagers, and it's definitely done intentionally. The personalities, their oddities, and emotion when shit goes down, it all just lands so well. Some cheesiness here and there, but not too often in a way that's overly annoying or distracting. It all plays into the tone really well. For this next thing, saying things like this is incredibly subjective, especially for seasoned horror fans. I wouldn't say this film is particularly scary, if that's kind of what you're looking for in a film this evening. But it is suspenseful at times, with several gripping sequences. The thing about my non-spoiler section today is that it's not going to be very long, or at least not as long as I can normally make it. This film takes a turn at an unexpected time, and you know then what sets this film apart from other home invasion storylines. And for me, it's actually pretty brilliant, and I really love the direction this film takes. With differing tones, you don't know how events will play out, positively or negatively, for the protagonist, but this makes it so much easier to stay invested in the story, and to keep you guessing until the end. This is a vastly entertaining film, with a lot of rewatchability. I really don't want to say too much, and hopefully I haven't already, so if you have not seen this film, I think it's well worth a watch, just to give it a shot. Screen time is largely helmed by teenage characters, so keep that in mind with how you feel about this and these modern films now. But I highly doubt you won't get something out of this experience, and I really wish I could watch it again for the first time. So, let's not waste any more time on the spoilers. So, yeah. If you've seen this movie, it has quite the turn of events, and early on. When I watched this a couple years ago, it seemed like the break-in part was reaching a climax pretty quick, even before the 30-minute mark, so I was eager to see where it all was going, and the reveal comes in an amusingly abrupt way, as Luke delivers a sickening blow to Ashley's head, as the home invasion aspect, as it turns out, was just a front. Although, a little note about this scene, I have to say, realistically, this film would have likely ended right about here. He wanted to keep her alive, but bonked her on the damn dome and sent her tumbling down quite the lengthy staircase. Maybe wait until she gets to the bottom of the staircase before whacking her, but movies. Movie logic, But anyway, Levi Miller's performance as Luke hits all of the right marks for me. Teenagers are already pretty unstable, as it is, to be fair. I mean, no offense to any teenagers who may be listening to this at some point, but the age group just has a lot going on upstairs, to put it simply. Although it really, to be fair, doesn't get much better into your 20s either. But here, though, with Luke, you've got at least 10 times the crazy, 10 times the impulsiveness, fucking 20 times the voice cracks in stressful situations. But sometimes teens are little geniuses, annoyingly, and oftentimes dangerously so. Luke is just a lot of things. A really troubling thing, though, is you never truly know when and if Luke is going to hit a roadblock in his mind with this master scheme he's putting together. And he's often seemingly impulsive and awkward in his reckless behavior, but also seems to have an answer and a way out every single time. Plus, he's a master manipulator, using the benefits of his young age to its full advantage. An ever so slight con, I would say, could be character likability for the very few decent characters there are. Garrett, who's Luke's friend, makes a switch towards the end of the film, but still stuck around for far too long and was perfectly willing to cop a feel and basically sexually assault Ashley while she was tied up. And then at the end even takes a break from trying to free her from her restraints, just to simp all over her damn cheek before getting blasted with a shotgun. But Ashley is the only character who's possibly likable, I would say, as a whole. She's dumb-ish, in a teenage kind of way, with her priorities all out of whack, plus piss-poor taste in boys, but no cardinal sins being committed. But I guess you really don't have to have a particularly likable character in a lot of horror films, if it's interesting anyway. If that is typically important to you, your enjoyment could come down to how you view her character. But if nothing else, you could easily watch this as a sort of clown show unfolding almost. With how ridiculously a lot of things play out with these teens. And there's some dark and adult content, but it's carried out in this still awkward and haphazard manner that kind of lightens the tone a little bit. And in that sense, this film is funny throughout in its goofiness, the childish arguments, and the plan constantly getting derailed. But Luke is disturbed, and to be as polite as possible, fucked up. He gets the most joy out of harm at any level coming to others, especially if it benefits him and his goals. Death doesn't faze him in the slightest. He had a tiny tantrum/blow-up after he kills Garrett, but quickly realizes his lack of worth to him anyway, and just completely dismisses it seconds later. To go back to one of the appearances, I love seeing Patrick Warburton in movies and shows, most notably Family Guy for me, as his Joe character. His character Robert and Deandra, again played by Virginia Madsen, their bickering and opposing personalities were just comical at first. The story does interestingly include little details of how Luke came to be the most antisocial and angry person that he is. Teens in general are incredibly fragile and vulnerable with their confidence, whether they like to admit it or not, and they can draw influence from not the greatest places, and then combine that with any naturally existing mental health issue. Just this unstable mentality, different triggers and events can create a monumental disaster in these kids, and how they end up treating their surroundings, most notably other people. I'm definitely not excusing misbehaved and these just little badass kids, especially in Luke's extreme case. I'm just saying teens are more at risk to act in a rebellious manner and let their intrusive thoughts win, as the saying goes. And with Luke, there is no discussion of diagnosis or any specific indication of what has over time set him off and when. I guess it just kind of hints at attachment issues, for starters. His parents are always fighting, which is good for no one anyway. A conversation with Ashley kind of sets him off also, involving his mom not holding him or hugging him anymore like she used to. And I'm not shifting blame or defending the character at all. I just found it interesting seeing how a slightly unstable environment can help contribute to such behavior, in addition to not being aware of how imbalanced some people are to begin with, as Luke seemed like a normal, innocent, nerdy kid. This is mostly just a fun movie anyway, so it doesn't really have to be that deep. Just things like that kind of get me thinking, especially with these strange characters and what clues the movie may drop in as to why they are the way that they are. But to move on, even with the initial home invasion before the big reveal, it won't win any awards for originality, but it's a really nice build-up actually, with some effective suspense. I didn't see the twists coming. The second viewing I just had, I paid attention to Luke for any hints of what was to come, and I would say it's still hidden pretty well, I would say for most first-time viewers. A lot of his outward reactions seemed realistic and feasible, even panicking and unathletically yeeting Ashley's phone into the fish tank. I guess the attempts at heroics by Luke is kind of up for debate, perhaps, but other than that, I liked the initial third of the film. Levi Miller, though, generally steals the show with this unhinged and unpredictable character, and these young actors in general are convincing. On a side note, a cool little fact, I knew Olivia DeJonge and Ed Oxenbould, who played Ashley and Garrett respectively. I knew they looked familiar, but I just couldn't place from where at first. But it turns out, if you didn't know this, they were siblings in M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, an underrated project I would like to review in the future, so it was pretty great to see them working together again. Dacre Montgomery, again, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, and the Billy character, who attracted a lot of attention for his Season 3 performance, and his looks, apparently. But he plays Jeremy here, Ashley's ex. But one of the more comical elements of this film was the Ricky character, Ashley's boyfriend, as well as Jeremy, and how they interacted with the people around them. Their just overall lack of awareness and fake cool guy fronts that they gave off. One of my favorite moments being Jeremy hanging up on Luke after misunderstanding the purpose of his call when he tried to draw him in. Of course, followed by Luke's reaction and judgment of Ashley's taste once again. There are a few deaths, well, actually fairly disturbing in how they're carried out, with the absolute absence of empathy from Luke, but none are overly graphic. The most messed up one was Ricky's, in my opinion. Again, not because of its super graphic nature, literally used. His life was used to settle an initially harmless debate with how the paint can to the head gag in Home Alone would realistically play out. Combine that with Luke's giddiness to have been right, despite it causing Ricky's death. That moment in particular just took the danger and the violent nature of Luke to another level. The ending will be hit or miss for people, whether you cut it off right when the credits start to roll, or after the mid-credits scene. It's still ambiguous as to Luke and Ashley's fate, but I enjoyed it. Better Watch Out is simply a good time, a fun, twisted little ride that blows through its short runtime. There's never a dull moment, I don't think, and I'm unsure of anything else I could have asked for from it. It's not the best Christmas horror comedy that you could watch, but it is a bucket list watch for sure. Despite knowing the twist this time around, it was still worthy of a rewatch with all of its antics and stunts, and even dialogue here and there. Not one that needs a sequel, completely sufficient as a standalone film. I'll give Better Watch Out a 7.5 out of 10. I hope everyone is having a great month leading up to the holiday. I'm excited to get more reviews out. So, happy holidays. Don't 100% trust your kids if you have them. No matter how sweet they are at home or how scary of a parent you think you are, they're smarter than you think. Not always the best quick thinkers, the best on their feet liars, but they'll still get plenty past you. In their nature, good kid or not. But in the back of your mind, you never know when a little Luke learner will reveal their true colors. But anyway, thanks so much for listening, and until next time on The Entertainment Room.